What would you do if your child or your grandchild or someone you know said to you, mommy or grandma, someone tried to kidnap me today? You'd probably kind of laugh and say, oh, yeah, right. Well, this exactly happened to my sister. So this is really real, y'all, firsthand knowledge. So she picked up her son from school on Thursday from a camp. And I won't tell you the camp, but it is a camp that is all over the country. Probably many thousands of kids I know must go to this particular camp. I don't know how many, but it is a program that's throughout the country. So she had signed him up for this last week, and she went to pick him up Thursday. And they called him out, and then the lady at the desk, while they were waiting for him to come out, said to her, she said, by the way, do you have anybody else on your list that can pick up your child? And she said, no, absolutely not. You can look at my sheet, only my name is on there. And then she and Brighton left, thinking, she thought that was rather weird, but just thought maybe they were doing a double check. She just thought it was strange. So then they get in the car, and Brighton says to her, mommy, somebody tried to kidnap me today. And she says, come on, Brighton, that's not something to fool about. That's not a funny. Mom, I'm serious. I mean, I'm really serious. And Brighton is a very serious child. I mean, he loves to play and he can do jokes, but when he's joking. And she looked at him and she knew that he was being serious in what he was talking about. So here's what happened. He was in the locker room that I guess he could see into the office and he could hear. And while he was in there, he heard a woman's voice saying, I'm here to pick up Brighton Lane. And he was thinking to himself, that's not my mom. Who is that? And so the lady that was there to do the check in or check out said, well, he's not here. He's been picked up. And so I guess she left. And I'm not sure at that point if she had asked for an ID or not to see who it was. But in any case, later, Sharice came in and picked him up. And they did not say one thing to her about that. As I said, they only said, do you have somebody else picking him up? To which she said no. So as she continued to talk to Brighton, that's very concerning. Sorry, that he could actually hear and see this other woman with bangs and dark hair trying. So Friday morning comes and she drops him off at the camp. She goes to work. She goes back to pick him up. And when she picks him up on Friday, she asks the person, she said, so my son was telling me that yesterday somebody tried to pick him up and it wasn't me. And the lady said, yes, she did. And she was back today. Okay, this is 2 days in a row. So Friday, the lady came back. And my sister said, well, what did you do? Did you get her ID? Did you call the police? You had already asked me, can anybody else pick him up? And I told you no. It could very well be this is a subject that there are the enemy out there. Let's just be real. The enemy out there doesn't want people to know. They don't want them to be aware. They want to think the world, so many people still in our society today are pretending or not listening or paying attention that this is really real. Kids are being kidnapped. Kids are being trafficked as well as women. Men are too. Young children. It's a terrible, terrible problem in our country. It's actually in the world. We have to be aware, and that's the whole reason I'm telling you all this story. This isn't like one of the uplifting kind of happy stories what I usually talk about, but the fact that someone would try to pick up my nephew for acting like she was the one that's supposed to pick him up. Nobody else is on his pickup list except me, and I'm in Kansas City, right? Well, actually, I'm in Phoenix, but I'm not there to pick him up from school. So someone has tried to pick him up and take him. She did, of course, file a police report. The sheriff called her back. We don't know yet what they're going to do or how that's going to unfold. But not only is it concerned, now the good news is they didn't call Brighton up and try to send him home. Now, Brighton is a very aware little boy. He is 10, getting ready to go on 11. Sharice has talked to him a lot about the whole thing of, the whole, when my kids were growing up, it was stranger danger. I don't know what they call it, what they do in school now, but he's very well aware that you never go with anybody. And if they do, scream and whatever, make a big scene so that you know. And he says, Mom, I would never get in the car with anybody. And I believe him if he had any choice. Now, we've all seen movies where they find ways to a child or somebody in a car. But the fact that somebody would come, and here's the thing, at this camp, they asked for the woman's ID, but when Sharice asked, well, what was her name? She didn't know. She didn't write it down. She didn't do a check-in. Sharice said, well, why didn't you take her license? She did ask for it, but obviously didn't read it. And she said, why didn't you take it in the back and call the police? Obviously, this is someone who's trying to take my child. Why wouldn't you do that? And they didn't have an answer. So and of course now she is talking to the school and to the upper management of that, or the camp, to find out what is their protocol. So here's the lesson, y'all. We never know when these kind of things are going to strike. And it makes me thankful where Henry is going to his camp. They have quite a good protocol. Now, I don't know exactly how it would play out, but they have cameras. This place did not have cameras, so they don't have a picture of her. So I think those people who were involved in that whole kidnapping thing, whether it's exactly trafficking, I don't know, but it's wrong. And I would guess it is trafficking. I think anything in that category of stealing and kidnapping children would fall into that trafficking thing. Now, what exactly it's the purpose, I don't, of course. But the thing is, so where Henry is, we each have our own check-in to take him home, or even to check him in. We first of all have a code, individual codes to go in the building. And then when we get inside, we do the same thing. We have to enter the code, and then we can go in, and then who it is that is bringing and picking up the child. So they did not, they didn't think far enough, so it could have, in that situation, they could have been somebody new who hasn't worked with children for very long, who doesn't know how serious this is. Well, they know now, because my sister definitely would tell them. So like I said, when we pick up Henry, we each have a code, and then a visitor can come in, but they have to sign in. They take their license. They have cameras right there. It would be much harder for something like that to happen. And then they would check the visitor thing, who has Alicia given them permission. So those of you who have children, young children that are going anywhere, I mean, and at schools, when I used to pick up Henry's actual public school in kindergarten, they had me sign in, and they looked at my license. They made sure I was on the list. So everywhere where children are left, church on Sunday morning, same thing. We have to check in a little thing. We get only our number is given to pick them up. So wherever you're taking your children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews, whatever that looks like, really look at what their protocol is. Could someone that's not you or on your list be able to pick up your child? Because if they don't have a good protocol in place, you may want to talk to them about that, or maybe find a different place for your child. I mean, it really is pretty scary. Now, again, the good news is they didn't get him, but the fact that they would try 2 days in a row is pretty, boy, I just can't believe they have the guts to do that, but obviously they do. So here's the other thing, though, that's pretty profound, is that Sharice lives in Utah. There's no family around. She works all day. And so she doesn't really have a close group of friends that she hangs out with. So nobody else, nobody, not even anybody she works with, knows what camp he was going to. She likes to stay under the radar. She is not on Facebook. She doesn't do any social media. And so nobody, even I knew he was in camp, but I didn't even know the name of the camp because I wasn't there. It didn't matter, right? So nobody that she knows did she give the name of the camp to anybody. So nobody in our sphere would have been able to go and pick him up, would even know where to pick him up. So how did that woman, whoever she is, how did she know that the name. I mean, she said, I'm picking up Brighton Lane. How would she know? So what that tells me, there's only one way she could know, is that somewhere on the inside, somebody either got into their computer and looked for names and looked for a certain profile, maybe to fit a single mom something, or is somebody on the inside that is kind of profiling for somebody on the outside. Say, okay, well, here's a child, this might work. And that is really scary, y'all. Don't you find that just incredible that that would happen? So I want this to be a warning. I want this to be a warning to those of you who have children and grandchildren in the areas that where someone could pick them up, could try to take them. It is a warning to make us all more aware that these things are happening. And when you hear it in the news, it was probably, I'm trying to guess, pre-pandemic, maybe 10 years. So 15 years or so that I went to a women's luncheon and they talked about human trafficking. And I was clueless. I mean, I kind of heard about it, didn't know anything about it. And I thought that can't be real. And from that time on, I've really tried to pay attention. I've gone to some other things. I've heard some other speakers talk about it. I've done some other investigation on it. And y'all, it is so prevalent. It's just growing so fast. And they sell these children. They go into sex trade. They make them work. It's enforced labor is what they call it. So there are several things. And so I'm going to give y'all, and Barb, since I know you're there, and Kathy, I'm sure you're there as well. Can you type in this number for me? This is a hotline. If you think that you see or notice anyone being kidnapped or followed after, if you think it could be a situation where it's a human trafficking thing, forced labor, and that is 888-7, no, 888-373-7888. That's why I made those eights. 888-373-7888. That is a hotline. If you see something that doesn't look normal, that seems, they say that these are some of the signs that you can notice. Now, Brighton, what happened with that is not anything that you would be able to have been prepared for, because a lot of the trafficking comes from people that are very vulnerable, homeless, in poverty situation, addicts. They do a lot, they being the traffickers, do a lot of grooming online, where they start talking to teenagers mostly. This is done a lot of grooming. And 10-year teenagers often are complaining about their parents, or they have a bad home life, or maybe their dad's an alcoholic. Whatever that looks like, is teens are putting too much information out on social media. So one of these trafficker people goes into, they're going to start grooming them, and they start telling them, oh, I understand, and gosh, I wish I could help you, and what can I do for you? And they just start grooming this person to trust them, and then they meet up and then they take them. I mean, it's happening all around. So one of the things that they say that are signs is that if you see someone, and the child or the teen or something, it could even just be a grown woman that also is being trafficked, where they don't seem to be able to say anything. So maybe could even be at a restaurant where maybe a man and a woman, and the server's trying to be friendly and the woman just won't talk, or the husband or the man there does all the talking. If they don't seem to have any money of their own, and here's a big one for any in the teens, they say, watch, you see somebody in a situation and the teenager does not have a phone, that's a good sign, because they're not going to give anybody a cell phone, because they could call and get help. So just a few of the things. And if you see someone with bruising and all, that means that there's abuse going on there. So they say to contact law enforcement. You can use that hotline there. They say do not try to engage them yourself, but pick up the phone and call someone, call that hotline, call 911, try to notify law enforcement so that they can follow up on that, so they can intercede, because you never know if there's a violent situation, if that person might have a gun or whatever. So anyway, so my goal for you this morning is just to be aware, y'all, and we really need to share this. Thank you, Barb, to share this with others, because that when it's my sister, y'all, it is very close to home, as you know. And then it makes me think about all of the rest of you that I know. So many of my followers, so many of you are grandmas, and we have our little, our cute grandkids, and we don't want anything happening to them. And if we can help in any way, and I know one of our Fun Fearless gals here in Kansas City she's a member of a couple of places that really help people coming out of trafficking. And so every city, so no matter where you are and where you're listening from, make contact, find out areas where you might can help, or at least get more information. I can tell you right now that we are going to, in our lunches coming up, I will find someone to come in and talk about that again, to help us understand it. How can we help those that are coming out, and how can we make a difference if we see something? If we see something that looks like it could be a trafficking situation where they literally take these children, these people, these men, these women, and the biggest one I think is the whole sex trafficking. A lot of them they bring them in, and a lot of what they call child marriages. They make these young women, I mean, like not even teenagers, marry older men so they can just be used as a sex tool. It's just awful. The thing I think when I pray about it, it's like, Lord, it's got to break his heart. It breaks my heart. So you think of how, sorry, how it must be for the Lord when he looks down and sees his people doing this to each other. It is so evil. It is so wrong. And we just have to come awake, y'all. If you're not awake already, maybe this is just a new little awakening. Lord, lift the veil from our eyes. I pray that for our country in so many ways, not just this area, but Lord, just lift the veil from our eyes so we can see the truth, because the truth will set us free. Scripture tells us that, for you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So Lord, unveil our eyes so we can see the truth. Unveil the eyes of our country so that we can begin to draw closer. Lord, draw closer to you. I want to see our country come back to God, come back to the Christian country that we were founded to be. And so we just leave it in his hands, but we have to be aware. We can't keep our head in the sand. And I'm the first to tell y'all, I probably spent the first, well, how old am I? Probably the first 60 years of my life, first 55 of my life, being my head in the sand. And I just can't do that anymore. And the more that we become aware, the more that we learn, the more that we can help and share information with each other. So thank y'all for being here. I hope it is a not totally depressing for you, but we just need to be aware. And I love you so much, and I want all of you to be safe. I am so grateful that my little nephew, he's so precious, he is safe. They didn't actually try to give him to this woman. And I pray they find her. We are really hoping that she will come back this week and try it again, because they have the things in place now. They will call the police immediately if she comes in. So really, it'll be a really good thing if she tries again, because then they can catch her. And we never know, she might be a link to a trafficking thing that's going on right there in her town. So anyway, I love you. Thank you for being here. And I will see you next week. And I'll be back home in my office. And so everything should be all good with the transmission. All right. Take care. And remember, y'all, and this is an important one this week. Life is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. Choose wisely and choose to be aware of what's happening in our world, and know that the Lord Jesus Christ is with you and he has your back. All right. Bye now, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.